Thanks very much, Michael, and a pleasure to be here with you for this year's summit. My name is Henry Akanko. I'm Director of Hire Immigrants Ottawa. Hire Immigrants Ottawa is a community-wide initiative of United Way East Ontario, and our main focus is to support employers to more effectively attract and integrate internationally trained professionals into the labor market. So I often like to remind people that the name Hire Immigrants is a call to action. Often people mistaken it as to be a frontline service that provides services to immigrants. We don't serve immigrants directly, but we do work with our community partners who help facilitate the connection between the demands of, that employers have for talent and the immigrant clients that they serve. Happy to see many partners and collaborators in this room. So I have just one slide. I know we saw a number of slides earlier on this morning, and I just wanted to use this to demonstrate what the trends are and why this topic is very important. We all know immigration has for a long time been a key driver of our population and labor force growth. And this is going to continue to be the case for many, many years to come, considering where our demographic trajectory is going. And these are two slides I wanted to show, was just to demonstrate what happened with the pandemic. So if you look at the first slide, the first graph, you notice that there was a big dip around the 2020-2021 timelines. And this is when our borders were shutting down, and so you recall the number of people traveling reduced significantly, so immigration inflows into our country followed the same trend. They came down very low. So what did that do to our general population? It reduced that. And here I'm talking about permanent residents, because every time we do the census, permanent residences are counted as part of citizens. And so if you look at that in terms of what happens to percentage growth of our general population, you see there's a huge dip there because the number of people coming into the country significantly reduced. If you look at the graph, on the other hand, you'll see these are both the current trends as well as long-term projections. And you'll see from 2030, you see that the yellow bars, which is the natural population growth, begins to go into the negative. So immigration would largely be accounting for population growth. So what this tells us is this issue of effectively integrating immigrants is something that we would have to get a lot better at doing than we already are doing. We're doing a great job compared to other countries in the world, but there's a lot of room for improvement considering the tight labor market that we are seeing. Other countries are facing that as well. Now, while this picture shows a huge dip in terms of the number of inflows of immigrants that came in, we did see an increase in the number of immigrants who were admitted from other streams of immigration into permanent residency status. So the federal government had a multi-year immigration target of 1.2 million people over 3 years starting 2021. And for the first year was 401,000 permanent residents to be admitted into the country. What they did very quickly was to immediately create pathways for people who are here on temporary residence permits to be able to transition into permanent residency. The bulk of these were international students. So the panel we had here earlier on about the high local, they talked about international students. That was a significant group of people who transitioned from temporary to permanent residence, as well as people on temporary foreign worker program permits as well. So for that first year of that multi-year target of 1.2 million, we did meet and surpass that target. So actually 406,000 people did come true as permanent residents, but the bulk of them were people who were already here, which is why we see that dip go down. But now that people are beginning to come in with the borders open, we see the numbers go up, which means that our population growth will continue to trend upwards. And from the numbers we've seen by June this year, we are on way to meet those targets. Now, how does this affect us locally in Ottawa? Because these are national trends. We've seen correspondingly an increase in the 2020 timeline. Our numbers in terms of permanent residents to Ottawa dropped as well, from 10,900 in 2019 to 6,500 and a bit in 2020. In 2021, with all these conversions from temporary to permanent, we've seen our numbers go up to 13,000 plus. So that is good news for us in terms of how many people are coming, and this is the highest we've seen ever in terms of immigrants coming to permanent residents to Ottawa. At the end of June, we are at 8,500. So that tells us that at this rate, we are on track to welcome about 16,000 plus immigrants by close of year. So the good news is, post-pandemic, the numbers are looking good for us. We are attracting more immigrants, and all the programs that we've heard talk about this morning, especially international students, are big contributory factors. We are seeing younger people come through in our immigration system. Most of them are between 19 and 34 years of age, which means that they are going to contribute to the labor market for a long time to come. Because most of them are coming through the post-secondary education system and through the co-op placements that a good number of them are going through, they have both Canadian credentials and some Canadian work experience, which means that their transition into the labor market is a lot more faster than people who are coming in directly as permanent residents. So there's a lot of optimism in terms of the supply of talent coming from the immigration stream. However, the numbers that are coming in are not enough to offset the number of people who are retiring. That is why we are feeling that tightening labor market. And the Canadian Council of Businesses are already lobbying government to increase those numbers. We know there will be new numbers released next month, and the signs are we are likely going to see federal government announce higher numbers in terms of the target of immigrants coming in over the next couple of years. So I'm going to leave it at this for now, and then during the Q&A, we'll be able to go deep into some of
That's
this.
fantastic. A big round of applause for Henry and the great work they're doing. Thank you, Henry. I like when you said that, hire immigrants. Hire is a verb. We're looking to hire immigrants. So that provided some really good overall context. Next, I want to bring Pouria Ghods to the podium. Pouria is the CEO of a local technology company called Giatec, very successful company. I won't describe what you do exactly, just like I butchered the Attain group, but effectively, see if I got this right, you put sensors in cement, and the sensors...
In concrete.
In concrete, what am I saying? Concrete, see, I got it wrong already. And the sensors, I guess, provide lots of detail about and data on the strength and how the concrete's aging and so on and so forth. But Pouria, maybe we'll start with just your personal story. So this part of the panel, I guess, we're going to hear a personal story. Pouria's an immigrant to Canada several years ago, but equally, he's won an award for hiring immigrants. So he is an example of a fantastic company that's integrating, but we'll start off with your personal story. Tell us about yourself, Pouria.
Thanks, Michael. Good afternoon, everybody. So Pouria Ghods, you got it right in terms of the sensor. Only difference, the concrete and cement, just for information, because we are getting that a lot, right? So concrete is the one that is like a cake, right? Yeah. Cement is the flour, right? So to the cake, so that's the kind of analogy we use just to explain people, right? So good science lesson. Yeah, materials you see in the concrete trucks or concrete, like the trucks delivering that in the road. So the inside is concrete, but cement is the powder basically they use. Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Just my background. First, thanks for the inviting me to the stage. So winning Hire Immigrant for 2 years in a row, right? So I guess we did it last year and the year before. I guess it was more related, when I reflect on it, it's more related to our background, right? So as a co-founders. And in a way, we had some advantages, right? Honestly, compared to other companies in town, right? So because we came, like both founders or co-founders, we came to 2005 actually to Canada as a new immigrant, right? So to do our PhD, myself, I did my PhD at Carleton University, civil engineering, and my business partner, he did the same, but at Ottawa U, right? So kind of, right? So we graduated 2010 from those two universities, and our story was, yeah, at that time we had challenges, right? So what we're gonna do next, right? So 2010, we have PhD, and we started the postdoc, like some funding, government support, right? So we had some flexibility around that time, right? So doing some postdoctoral studies, but yeah, at one day we just looking at each other. Let's see whether we can start a company, right? So instead of going to academia, become a teacher, professors, right? So educate other people. Let's see whether we can bring some of those knowledge that we have at scientific level in the labs to the industry, which is way, way behind, right? So all this, we call it old school construction industry. And yeah, let's try it, give it a chance. You know, worst case scenario, we're gonna fail and we're gonna find job, right? So that was the idea, I mean, the perception of like a initial decision we made to start that company. But interestingly enough, right, the first few years, when I reflect on it, right, so all employees, like the first 10 employees we had at that time, they were all immigrants, right? So which is kind of natural, right? When you start a company, co-founders, you know, they hire from friends, family. Two of them, they were my brothers, right? So yeah, at some point, right, in 2012, we see that we have some issues, right? So we don't have diversity. We are so we need just to solve this problem, or like, yeah, because yeah, we see challenges. Even from that side, we had some challenges, right, for the sales and marketing. You know, like we needed people that are more familiar with the culture of industry, concrete industry, construction industry, be able to speak to their languages. So yeah, at that time, I guess what happened, yeah, then we joined Invest Ottawa, right? So we started, you know, with two cubicles maybe at Invest Ottawa. Used to be a different place, different name, Okri, but they moved to the new place at Aberdeen Street, and then they rebranded to Invest Ottawa. So yeah, that opportunity, that change exposed us to different networks, right? So that expanded our network significantly, and with that, we started bringing more people with different backgrounds, right? So from diversity perspective, right? So different dimension, right? So that was kind of the way basically we got to the kind of more balanced situations, right? So we had, yeah, so kind of over the years since then, we hired different people from different background, from gender perspective, race, right? So you name it, right? Different dimensions. And now, I guess because of that story we had, so we have relatively good balance in terms of the diversity from the gender perspective, right? So we have 50% equity basically between in our leadership, 50% gender equity, and also overall, like for a tech company, 80% of our workforce technically they are engineers, you know, scientists, you know, background. And we do have 40% of our workforce like coming from the female, right? So we have that, but again, just getting to the point that, yeah, that happens to us a little bit more naturally because of our background, right? So basically, we were new immigrants, came here, did our studies, and that was always, you know, kind of intuitive for us, right? To hire, you know, just look at the quality, right? Look at the, not too much stuck into Canadian experience or basically different types of the background, just hire good people, right? High qualified people, good people, aside from their background, they're like, yeah, just completely just focusing on the qualified people. And that's kind of help us basically to get to the more, I would say, that very diversified culture, right? So that we are very proud of at the moment. And the other moment, I would say that when I reflect, 2015, I went to San Francisco, right? So that was part of C100 basically programs, right? So Canadian funders, you know, there is a group, a nonprofit organization in San Francisco, basically established by Canadians, right? Successful Canadian business people over there. And every year they bring 100 founders, you know, across Canada to San Francisco to expose them to tech, like venture capitals, right? All those investing opportunity, all those things. And at that point, I met Patrick Pichette, right? So the former CFO of Google. And yeah, I had the chat, you know, I mean, like it was 2015, I believe. He mentioned that, yeah, Pouria, yeah, you know, if you're gonna do the team building, the first thing you need to pay attention at from day one, make sure that, you pay real attention to diversity. If you don't take it right from day one, it's really, really difficult to basically improve it. Like he said that, at that time, in Google, if you are going to hire just female for the next 30 years, we cannot get to 50% basic, 50% situation, right, ideal situation. And that is stuck in my mind, and from that one, that really, really, we need to be very proactive. It's not going to happen basically naturally if you're not proactive, and also nurture the culture, like HR culture or team building culture of like everybody. So you need to look at every single opportunity to bring good quality people, right? So remove all the biases basically on the Canadian experience, background, all those things, languages, all those things, right? So that helps us significantly to be successful on that front. But maybe just I'll touch on the benefits, right? So why hiring immigrants, right? So what are the benefits you get, right, as a business, right? Because at the end of the day, we need to pay the bills. So we are not-profit organization even, right? So we have investors, like shareholder, right? So we have some commitments, right? So to all of them. So what are the benefits, right? So the first, which is obvious, but maybe I'm gonna a little bit expand on that, is diversity. The way that we look at the diversity is just, the way we benefit from diversity. The culture of inclusion, right? So whenever we need to make a decision, especially important decision, when we have different perspectives, right? So viewpoints into that matters, the chance that you get it right is significantly higher, right? So because of different context, different life story, different lenses, right? So that you have, right? It's available to your organization if you have a really diverse culture. And the second thing I would say that, the culture of innovation. We are very proud having very innovative culture. And I believe that has significant things to do with diversity or immigrants, right? So be brought to the team. So because they are usually to have the culture of innovation, right? So to nurture the culture of innovation, you need people to be able to take the risk, or risk takers. And quite often people you are bringing from different countries, right? So they already took a risk, right? So to get to basically to do the immigration from their country. And they are more willing to take a risk. And as a result, we see that we have seen so far that, the part of our culture of innovation, right? So it's coming from those people that, are very risk takers. And because again, they have done that, like they started over, at one point, and now they have more courage basically to take, other risks, right? In the business concept. And the other part is the passion, the level of passion and motivation we see on new immigrants, right? So, because they start, that's happened to me, right? 2005, I came here, I was 25 years old at that time. So we just started over, right? From scratch, right? So from just to build everything, again from the foundation. And this is something happening, I guess, to all new immigrants, right? Coming to this country, to Canada, which is a great, actually, country, by the way, just accepting new immigrants. And that makes them more passionate, right, motivated to build something, prove themselves again here, right? So that's another benefit we are having at Giatec, hiring and focusing on immigration. And the last one is basically I wanted to touch is more expansion of your network, right? Because each of them coming to your company, they have their own network, community back in the country, right? And with that, your network would be significantly higher, right? So if you have a problem, if you have challenges, right? So you would have access to much higher or bigger, basically, network as a whole. Just one example, for example, over the COVID past 2 years, we had big challenges, right? Especially the middle of COVID, hiring senior software developers, right? So it was a really, really tough challenge. We tried different things, we failed, right? So, and then one of our people who came from Brazil, actually, like 2 years ago, just reached out to me and said, I know 3 people like that are really, really qualified from Brazil. Can you hire from Brazil? I said, yeah, we should be able to do. Technically, it should not be an issue, right? So, and we talked to our HR, finance. We basically make arrangement to bring them on board remotely, right? So even over the COVID, we had the advantage of, working with people, right, fully remote. And now they're working, the problem was solved. We have 3 employees, working from Brazil. Just as an example, we had one connection in the company who had a network, back in Brazil, right, to help us, to solve that problem at that time. Yeah, there are many examples of like that, so that we see it in our day-to-day basic operation, that we get significant benefits from having a very, very diverse culture, and diversity has, of course, different dimensions, right? So we just touch on a new immigrant, but every aspect of diversity is definitely important. And with that, I just conclude my my story, basically, right? I hope it was helpful for the audience, and if there's any questions,
Yeah, we'll put you on pause, and we'll come back to you in a second. Yeah, Pouria Ghods from Giatec.